this is Amy Campbell with Bertha Williams Library in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm here with Kevin King of King's Canvas. We're at the studio at 1413 Oak Street, and we're here to talk about the mural today. So this was recently completed last month?
Last month. About 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks? All right, and you and
Winfred Hawkins and Nathaniel Allen
all worked on it.
Right. Winfred was the point person who was hired to work on the mural. We brought Nathaniel in for reinforcements to kind of finish up the top, and after they got done with that piece, I finished off the bottom.
Okay, so this was a collaboration. What went into the planning of this?
So as I look around the city, I noticed that we didn't really have any large murals or signs welcoming people to the city. And so since we're on the 7th Montgomery March Trail, I thought, why don't we welcome people not only to the city, but welcome them to the west side of Montgomery. You know, we are right between St. Jude and downtown. And a lot of times people go to St. Jude just to kind of commemorate the 7th Montgomery March. And they drive through our neighborhood, but as they drive through our neighborhood, they're passing by a lot of history that they don't know. They're passing by a lot of history that needs to be told. And so I thought that we need to have a destination spot along the trail between St. Jude and downtown so people can stop, not only be welcome, but to take the time to hear about just the history of this community as they head to the Capitol.
So there's a whole lot of like bold colors and color blocks, and it sort of has a feel of a postcard mixed with graffiti. How did the design elements come about?
So the design element was all Winfred Hawkins. So I told him what I wanted. He provided a few concepts, and you know, he is a graffiti artist, but also he's in the comic books as well. And just the boldness of the yellow, the red, and the blue shadow, he got that from Marvel Comics. And so Winfred is saying that before us, we have a lot of superheroes that's paved the way for us to have the rights and privileges that we have as African Americans, or people, period, in this nation. And so Winfred is saying not only are they superheroes, but we're superheroes too. And so that's where the color pop came from. That's where the big Montgomery part came from, because there was a lot of heroes that have already gone before us. So it's a tribute to Marvel Comics, as well as the people who went before us and paved the way for us. And so he threw his graffiti element in there with the west side portion, and with the Montgomery piece, that's the comic book portion, and then he kind of finished it off at the last with spray painting a welcome to, with the King's Canvas crown at the top.
So how did the design come about, like as far as planning?
Yeah, so I told him what we wanted, just a basic design that we would start off at. And we had a community charrette. And so people from Washington Park and Gibbs Village, they came in, they saw just a basic design, and we asked questions about the community, colors, what they would like to see in the mural, what they would like to see represented in the mural, and we basically added to the design by incorporating the 7th Montgomery March narrative at the bottom of the mural. And so, and the color contrasts are like different shades of blue, because it did not need to take away from the Westside Montgomery part. And so the community came together and decided what they wanted it to be. But of course we have to start with something, because if you just ask people what they need, what they want, they don't really know. And so we started with a basic design, and we said, do you like it? What needs to change about it? What needs to stay the same? And what needs to be added to it? And so honestly, Winfred did a really great job, because they had no changes with the top part. But the bottom part was initially just random buildings, just color variations of random buildings. But through the data that was collected, through us doing a community charrette and then filling out their surveys and just kind of hanging out and having a good time, and this was all pre-COVID, you know, they decided that they wanted certain buildings and people and themes to be represented. And so looking at the continuity between everything that everyone had written, it was just fitting to say, okay, well, let's just tell the story of the 7th Montgomery March, because it involves all of that. It involves landmarks that are recognizable, and it involves people. Now, there are no identifiable people in the bottom, but it just represents people, period, who march during that time, and even represents people today, because 3 of the signs has to do with voting. That's still an issue. Economic justice is still an issue, and that's written on one of the signs outside on the mural. And also just human dignity, because that's what we fight for daily, just basic human dignity amongst all of us.
Are there any dream projects that you would have for Montgomery? Like if you could paint the side of any building in Montgomery? Do you got one?
Dream projects. You know what I do? So one of my favorite places to go is Studio B in New Orleans, Louisiana. And you know, that gentleman, he's done some amazing stuff with that warehouse. I would love to see just beautiful images of Black people just being represented just in a dignified manner. When I say dignified, I'm not talking about with suits and ties. I'm talking about me with a t-shirt on, right? Just your normal, average, everyday person that you would probably look at and maybe have some sort of stereotype in your mind about, not realizing that just the basic human dignity that that person has. You know, he's a person, and he should not necessarily be judged based on his or her outward appearance, but he should be represented, you know, for everyone to see, just in everyday form, right? Because oftentimes people look at us and they look at the way we dress, they look at our outward appearance, and you know, people get scared, people make assumptions, you know, there are implicit biases that are running rampant that cause people to treat one another a certain way. But, you know, I would like to put something like that, represent something like that in a larger format, just to kind of get used to, you know, them seeing us this way, because this is who we are, this is how we were created, and we don't have to change who we are just to coddle somebody's fragility.
Yeah. Right. So there's been a lot of murals and other public artworks that have been kind of popping off lately. Do you have any in progress that you want to talk about that's coming up?
Yeah, so the good thing is, and I'm not a part of all of this, but Michelle Browder just did a great one at Southern Poverty Law Center. That was amazing. That was finished last week with she and a couple of BTW students. Tonight, Milton Madison is meeting a few volunteers to prime a space on Montgomery Street downtown, which is also on the 7th of Montgomery March Trail. They took Montgomery Street heading towards Dexter Avenue right before you get to the fountain. And so he's doing a pretty provocative piece that's going to evoke a lot of emotions, that also commemorates not only recent individuals who were slain, but also past Montgomery incidents, past Montgomery people who were slain within the last few years and even back in the 80s. And so that's what Milton is doing, and it's a huge piece that I think a lot of people are going to love. A lot of people are going to hate, but the great thing about art is it gives you an opportunity to spark a lot of conversations and educate one another, and just to have dialogue, whether you agree or not.
Right.
Another one, Cassandra Sanders has been doing a really great job in the King Hill neighborhood on Claudette Colvin Drive, right across the street from where Claudette Colvin grew up. That's another mural that's in progress right now that Milton is a part of, along with a young man by the name of Art by Cliff and his family. And they are from the King Hill area, so I do have an opportunity to oversee that project just to make sure it's properly executed. And so that one should be done by the end of October. Milton should be done by October 13th, and he's doing that through 21 Dreams. And so, and I think Michelle's was through 21 Dreams as well. Yeah. What
would you like to see for the art scene in Montgomery?
The art scene in Montgomery, honestly, I think the past 3 or 4 years, for me, the art scene has been flourishing, right? And so for me, I want to see people profit off of their gifts. Now, I never encourage anyone to go into it with that mindset, because if you chase the money and that's all it is and you don't really enjoy doing it, that probably won't last long, and you probably won't be able to maximize your creativity because you're chasing dollars.
Yeah.
But I do believe that we as creators, we deserve to get paid for what we create. I do believe that our time and our materials and just what goes on in our mind that allowed that piece to come forth is worth something, right? And so I would love to see artists in Montgomery, especially those who marginalized, those who haven't had access, those who hadn't had equitable opportunities. I would love to see those artists to begin to not only have more opportunities to create and to show their work, but to also financially capitalize over their work as well.
I'm for it. All right, I'm going to ask you a real hard question. Who's your favorite Montgomery artist?
Nah, that's a horrible one. Why you ask me something like that? Man, so I'm gonna take the easy way out.
Okay.
I'm gonna take the easy way out, and I'm gonna say Mose T.
All right.
Because he's no longer with us, but I see his work everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go to Scott Street Deli, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see his stuff everywhere. I was in just some random people's houses on the east side of Montgomery. You saw his work, and I think Marshall Weber had a lot to do with some of his work getting out. And so I hear that story. I get a chance to see Rod T downtown, Mose T's grandson. I was hanging out with him the other day. Got contacted by another one of his relatives in Birmingham. I think that's done some stuff with Marshall Weber. You know, and their work is similar. I was in an art show, an art exhibit with Anna T years ago before she passed that Michelle Browder had done for the 7th of Montgomery March. And so just folk art period, just having a picture of a person whose stuff is out.
Mm-hmm.
Since I wasn't really into art then, I'm kind of shaky on the timeline of when things happen, but you know, I just, with the type of art that he created, I love the fact that his work got the exposure that it ended up getting.
All right. And of course, as a librarian, I got to ask you what you're reading, or what you've just finished reading.
Oh man, so what have I finished reading? You mean as far as completed, or in the process of reading right now?
In the process of reading, or whatever you've just finished, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, so one of my favorite books is a book by a guy named Lowell Noble, I believe is his name, and it's called From Oppression to Jubilee Justice.
Okay.
And so that's one of my favorite books. Now, I'm reading a few books right now. Well, actually, no, I'm reading one book right now, and you know what? No, I'll take that back. I've read Robert Kiyosaki's Cash Flow Quadrant. That was really good. I'm reading a book right now called The World's Best Known Marketing Secret, and it's about word of mouth marketing, basically. I mean, it's simple, but it's real profound, and it kind of teaches us how, you know, even in the area of technology, one of the best, you know, world's best known marketing secrets, no matter what the world has done technologically in advancement, it's still word of mouth marketing, because people are still important. You can't replace people with technology. As much as we try, you can't replace that interdependency that we have as human beings. And so that even goes to, you know, attest to like business relationships, like anything, you know, just that word of mouth is still a lot more powerful than, you know, what we can do behind a computer on our phones.
Yeah. All right. And what would you like Montgomery to know about the King's Canvas?
Well, I think the King's Canvas was birthed out of a need. As I saw people like Kalonji Gilchrist with 21 Dreams providing something different for the art community, and putting people on in a way where their stuff were able to be, you know, shown at galleries. And I saw this emergence of African American artists. And I first saw it from Tracy Howell with Artists on Tap and Artober. I saw her do it with the shows, and I saw 21 Dreams. I kind of take that idea and try to scale and do it year round. But even in that, I saw people who were like me, when I say people like me, I mean people who were told in high school by well-meaning adults, don't worry about this art thing and get a real job, so I stopped doing it. And then as an adult, just trying to get back into that creativity, I said I need to reach those folks. Yeah. I need to catch them before they get out of high school. I need to reach that adult who's just kind of living their life because the bills have to be paid. They don't know they need to create, so they do need to create. I need to reach those people. And so I think that's why the King's Canvas is important. And just for people who would be considered, you know, marginalized or forgotten about, people who don't have access, I want to take whatever little access I have and leverage my resources and relationships on behalf of someone else so they can have it as well. So I'm a guy who want to use the King's Canvas to say, okay, if I'm right here, if I know just a little bit more, or if I know a few more people, if I have just a little bit more access and opportunity, instead of me running so far ahead, let me slow down just enough to try to bring someone else with me to provide access and opportunity for them too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're just naturally selfish and we want to do our thing and not put nobody on. But I just didn't come up that way. You know, and at a fault, that's probably why I'll never be rich. Because what I have.
Why be rich when you can be happy, right?
Absolutely. You know, what I have, I want to share with others. And even from an organizational standpoint, if there's something that I have access to, I want to be able to introduce other people to it. Of course, it's on them to really accept it and to leverage that on their behalf and take advantage of it. But I want to at least say, hey, this is available, at least. This is an opportunity. Take it.